Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final round of the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series here on Glacier TV. Will Vincent alongside David Ward and Dan Blake in the booth. We've got not much time now before the green flag will come out to start this race. We're going to run through your grid straight away. In row number one, Jan Niezolowski will line up alongside Wade Howard, first and second positions respectively. Riku Alatolo in third, Stuart Adcock in fourth, Marco Conti in fifth, Kurt Crum in sixth, Emmanuel Menendez in the seventh position, David Farr in eighth, Roger Jakubowski in the ninth position with Rita Bernard on the 10th position, Brian Goddard in 11th, Joanna Benzinger in 12th, and Jason Dunnington in the 13th position with Scott McIntyre in 14th, Tianostadnol Zenga Proicia is in the 15th spot, Jean Rodriguez in 16th, Wolfgang Wildener in the 17th position, and we are going to be going green in less than 20 seconds time for 30 laps here of the Oulton Park circuit. This 2.69 mile 14 corner racetrack, which will play host to the final round of the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series. This is the final race. Jan Niezolowski needs to make up 40 points, if at all possible, in tonight's race. And the lights are out. We are racing here at Oulton Park, and it's been a good start by most people. Welcome to the booth, everyone. And guys, turn one here is very scary, but looks as though for the most part, everyone's got through it okay.
Yeah, the first few have got through Old Hall okay, but it'd be interesting to see what happens as they go down the avenue in towards Cascades. That can also be quite a tricky moment on the first lap, so let's see what happens there.
Emmanuel Menendez has lost himself at least one position already. He's actually coming under pressure from Robert Jakubowski. This is the battle for 8th and 9th position, where it's a further up. Moko Corti on the left-hand side of Stuart Adcock. He's going to have the line into the next corner. Should he be able to get down? Very close between those two, and they touch! Both cars off!
That's a very, very unfortunate manoeuvre, but side by side into Island Bend doesn't always work out, and that's two of the cars that are eliminated maybe from this race at the early stages.
Four cars.
Massive crash. It's about 6-7 cars have been involved in some sort of, maybe it was a follow through from this accident, but the field has been 6-7 cars affected by that.
And I'm just having a look on the screen. We'll try and get ourselves a replay of that momentarily, but there was a secondary and a tertiary impact there. Marco Corti is off the racetrack. Stuart Adcock is off. Kurt Crum, he spun the car and he clipped the side of Emmanuel Menendez. Robert Jakubowski, I think, just got T-boned. Well, didn't get T-boned, just got run over there. And also, there was a tertiary impact with Jason Dunnington and Joanne Benzinger. He was facing rearward. Some of these cars are going to have damage, some of them are not. And in fact, that is Marco Corti spinning it once again down at the chicane. So Corti's day has gone from bad to worse. And guys, well, this is the final race. Some of these drivers are going to have to put it all on the line, but very messy very early on.
Very, very messy. And as a result, we've now got 3 cars at the front. Niezolowski, the cars of Hayward and Alatalo have managed to pull out a massive gap. The front 3 really pulled it out. There's 4.3 seconds between first and fourth, so these 3 have automatically got a great advantage after just one lap of 30.
What we have seen all season long, when Jan Niezolowski can get out front, he is a driver who can really push it to the limit. Wade Howard in the number 7 machine, close behind, and Ricky Alatolo, keep an eye out on him in that number 2 machine. But David Troy and Manuel Menendez, they are literally just having to race to survive right now. But David, you've raced with a number of these drivers, but people like Ricky Alatolo, you know, they really could pose a threat in their one-off appearances.
Oh yeah, definitely. They can throw a spanner in the works and take some valuable points away. Jan is absolutely on it. He's just a little bit ahead of Wade here, so it's going to be interesting to see how hard Wade can push to catch up with him.
So your top 5 momentarily. Jan Niezolowski in the number 1 machine, leading the way as they come through into Druids Corner one more time. Wade Howard in the 2nd position, Ricky Alatolo in 3rd, David Farr in the 4th position, Emmanuel Menendez rounding out your top 5. But all the way through the field, as we've seen all season long, there is battles going on the racetrack. For example, 8th and 9th, Scott McIntyre, Sean Rodriguez, they are battling for position at the moment. Wolfgang Wildenhurst also coming to the picture, but the top 3, they are pretty much nose to tail with less than 1.5 seconds between them as they're coming now down into the penultimate corner.
I fancy Ricky Alatalo to make a move as well on this next lap. He's got a great amount of experience. He's a World Championship driver, and anyone who watched the IndyCar race on Sunday will see just how versatile he is. Doesn't matter what the machinery is, Alatalo seems to be able to get in it and be fast. So it'll be interesting to see if he can build on this third place. But I personally think he will be able to build on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't discount Wade away from this. You know, he's a real good talent, and he seems to just have a different line going into
Cascades. That was
Cascades down there. So it's going to be interesting. This is a real fast section of the track as they come down to the Shell Oil corner.
But you say, you know, how Alatolo is a fast driver. You say how Wade has talent. Alatolo is looking down to the inside, down into Shell Oil's corner, turn number 5 there. But let's not forget, Jan Niezolowski has been in this position race after race after race, leading out front, but not being able to put too much of a gap and having drivers really on his rear wing. And he's used to that pressure now, and he knows that he's got to keep that race lead if he's got any chance of, you know, clawing a little bit of points gap on Christian Aranha.
Also, I think the start line incident affected 7 cars because you've got Wolfgang Wildenauer in 10th place, 20 seconds back, and then there's a further 14 to the next car. So I think that first lap incident, well, the first lap carnage between Cascades and Shell has cost 7 cars time in that.
Well, don't forget, it was Marco Corti who was involved at the very start. Kurt Crum got a little bit of damage. Robert Jakubowski, he was the one who started the incident with Marco Corti, so went too wide. And Rico Alatalo is looking down to the inside. He should be able to complete the pass there, down into turn number 16. He's got the inside line. He's going to complete the pass. Job done there, but he's got to just come back to the middle of the racetrack, and that was a perfectly executed pass.
Yeah, he got well alongside him going into Lodge corner there. That's a really difficult corner to take because it kind of comes back on itself and downhill, and it's a little bit off camber. So everything's against you. But yeah, he got a nice clean pass. Unfortunately, nothing Wade could do about it because as he came out of Druids, just ran a little bit wide onto the grass there.
And unfortunately for both of those drivers, in the process of that overtaking maneuver happening, Jan Niezolowski has been able to build the gap up now to 1.8 seconds. So he is charging hard, and I think he's just about at that point now that unless Rico Alatolo can put some really fast laps in, he might just be able to pull away by a couple of seconds here over the next coming laps. So Niezolowski is still in the catbird seat, but do not discount Rico Alatolo in the number 2 machine at all. Driver who's also used to racing under pressure week in, week out, and he really cannot be discounted here today.
No, definitely not. And there's a lapped car, I think, coming up in front of Niezolowski pretty soon. I can see there as they came through Hislop. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to that traffic.
Yeah, the slower cars are going to play a big role in this. You know, it's only 30 laps, but still, you know, Alatalo is just driving away from Wade now. I mean, we need to get a gap check on Rico and Jan, but maybe Rico's going to take that first place away from him.
It is possible. They have got lap traffic pretty much coming into play already. Rüdiger Brabrand in the number 10 machine. He is already 1 lap down. He is likely to go down 2 laps before this lap comes to conclusion. So this track is very fast, so that means that if your car has got a little bit of damage, you will lose significantly here, as you just haven't got the power, haven't got the grip to make it around this racetrack. The gap is now up to 2.1 seconds. Wade Howard has already dropped though 1.3 behind Rico Alatolo, so it's interesting that bit.
He ran wide again at Druids corner. That's a real fast section of there, and if you run wide, you haven't got that far to go until you hit the barrier. So he just rumbled off onto the grass and thought better of keeping his foot in and lifted slightly. So that's given Alatalo a chance to gap on him, but he hasn't. Alatalo is not really close upon Jan there. Jan's actually pulled out the gap, so going to be. I'd like to see a bit of a race here.
Yeah, there's still a lot of racing left to go though. We are only working on lap number 5 of 30 here at the Oulton Park circuit. And being one of these races which is longer than what we see normally, and also it's a track which, you know, has many fast corners. You don't want to overwork your tyres too early and too soon. And we have seen Zalowski has been prone to overworking those tyres on his SkipBarber machine, and that will possibly give Riccardo Tolo the advantage towards the end of this race. So that is something to bear in mind. Gap at the moment, though, is still about 2.1 seconds, so he hasn't really lost too much. In fact, no, it's up to about 2.5, I think it'll be by the end of this lap. So it's still dropping back, but Zalowski's doing a good race there, and that number 1 machine still.
I'm just watching this battle for 4th and 5th. It seems to be hotting up as they come through Druid's corner and onto just heading into Lodge. Looks like Mendes is just having a little look as they turn in, but decided better of it.
Yeah, he tried. He did have a little look, but it was nothing too major. I think he realises that that's got to be pretty precise to make the move there, and instead maybe he would be trying to get a good bit of slipstreaming as they come down towards the avenue for Lakeside.
Yeah, it's a real tricky corner that. You definitely got to be fully alongside. You don't want to do a Matt Neal on your teammate.
I have to say, there are a couple of drivers having issues on the racetrack. Scott McIntyre in the number 5 machine, he's had a difficult day. Kurt Crow, I believe, he is pretty much driving all over the place. That car is a handful to handle. But Wade Howard in that 3rd position is looking as though he started to get a little bit ragged as well that last lap. He's starting to get a little bit scruffy in that number 7 machine. And I think he's trying to claw the gap back to Riccardo Tolo. I mean, it's kind of around that 1 second margin, but being honest, Zalowski's still got it in the bag at the moment, and the best battle we have on the racetrack is with 4th and 5th, David Farr and Emmanuel Menendez battling for that 4th position.
Yeah, it might look like you sometimes get into a bit where you're overdriving the car, trying to make up time that isn't going to come. So, but he's had enough. He's far enough of 4th place, so he doesn't really need to push too hard. But I don't think he's going to catch Riku there.
I think Hayward is definitely making inroads on Alatolo. He doesn't seem to be pulling. Alatolo does not seem to be pulling away. And if anything, on the last lap, Hayward seems to be a bit quicker, a bit further, closer to the back of the rear wing of Alatolo's car than he was the last time. It'd be interesting to see what the respective lap times is between the two as they cross the stripe this time.
Yeah, he's much, much closer. It's down now to about 7/10 of a second. And Alatolo himself has lost another 10th and a half to Jan Zalowski. So Zalowski is still your race leader with 6 laps now scored complete. Riccardo Tolo in 2nd, Wade Hayward in 3rd, David Farr in 4th, Emmanuel Menendez in the 5th position. But you run through the rest of your top 10, it is Brian Goddard in 6th, Jason Dunnington 7th, Scott McIntyre in 8th, John Rodriguez in 9th, and Wolfgang Wildenhall rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, that seems to. Hayward seems to have got a little bit of a better car. He was really struggling at the beginning. Maybe he just couldn't handle the pressure from Alatolo. So it's going to be interesting to see the roles reversed if he can get up on his bumper.
But at the same time, guys, the easiest thing for these drivers right now to do, if they want any chance of getting back close to Jan Zalowski, is to hold off the fighting for, you know, the next 5-10 laps or so, because every time that they're going to start making big manoeuvres into some of these huge braking zones, they're just going to lose 10th after 10th after 10th. And we've seen how Zalowski, you see that Hayward just trying to have a look down the inside into Druids, but if he's going to start making these big moves, it'll make Riku defend a lot more, and they're just going to lose time every single lap.
Both cars were really slowly going out of Nickelbrook there. Alatolo and Hayward both swinging the cars about. They're definitely pushing them to the limits, and it'd be interesting to see how long they keep it on for, or if one of them's going to end up losing it after this.
Yeah, Hayward is probably better just sitting behind for the next couple of laps, saving his tyres, and try and pressurise Alatolo into making a mistake instead of going for one of those late braking moves.
Give you an update on the battles going on throughout the rest of the field momentarily. Joan Rodriguez is sat in the 9th position. He's got Wolfgang Wildenhauer closing up on him pretty rapidly for the time being. Wildenhauer is in the 10th position. One of those drivers involved in that big mess at the start of this race. Jason Dunnington and Brian Goddard. Dunnington is losing badly. He was close to the rear of the number 12 machine early on this race. Dunnington, however, is fallen back to 7 seconds now behind Goddard in the 6th position, who in turn is now 12 seconds outside the top 5. So it looks like this field really is starting to spread itself out, but that Menendez-Fur battle is still going on, and Menendez looks as though he's not really attacking the apexes too much yet. So do you think he's, you know, waiting until later on, trying to get Fur to overdrive his car?
Yeah, he just looks like he's just comfortably sitting there, waiting and biding his time. You know, watching where he's stronger. I think he's having a quick look in the mirrors. There he goes. He's going down the inside, and
it's going to be close.
Oh, it's going to be tight there. He's going to hold it around the outside. Yeah.
Going to go on the grass though, and maybe this could be a chance to go into Nickelbuck, but the number 8 car 4 thinks better of it. So that's Menendez now up into 4th place with a good move there into Hislops.
Yeah, that was a great clean move, but driving by both of them to give each other space.
Menendez has to be very careful though, because as soon as you get the power in these cars, they just have so little aerodynamic grip. They rely on all of it from the tyres, and if you're going into the grass, you know, 2 wheels, you've got to be very careful when you put that power on, just so it doesn't just turn around on you in a heartbeat. And David, you've raced here in real life. That grass is very, very slippery once you get onto it.
Yeah, it is. As soon as you touch the grass, that's it. You're going to be spinning around. I've only had one big moment, and that was going through Druids back in 2010, and just managed to hold it off the arm guy.
Just to run through your retirees in this race, Stuart Adcock is out. Marco Corti is out. Robert Jakubowski is also out. They are your 3 race retirees. Don't forget, it was Robert Jakubowski and Marco Corti involved in that incident in turn 1, which ended up involving 7 different drivers. Stuart Adcock was involved in a secondary impact from that. You've got Rüdiger Berbrand, Kurt Krum, Tino Puicia, and Dwayne Benzinger, all driving damaged race cars as well. So a lot of drivers here are driving, you know, very sick race cars, and that could come into play once the likes of Alatolo, Izolowski and Haywood start coming up to lap traffic.
It does look like Haywood is waiting patiently. He doesn't want to make his move too soon because Alatolo might come back on him. They're definitely not going to catch Jan, no way. So it's going to be a battle for these two right now, for second and third.
I mean, they are, and you lose it about a tenth and a half a second a lap, but that is still losing time each and every lap. And there hasn't really been a time all race long when Izolowski has been slower than that number 2 on the number 7 machine of Alatolo or Haywood respectively. So he's being the dominant car here, and as I said at the start of this broadcast, he knew he had to go for broke if he's got any chance of using drop weeks to catch Christian Reinhardt, who isn't racing here tonight. And a 44-point gap is doable with the iRacing scoring guys, but Izolowski, he's in the right position if indeed luck does fortune brave.
Indeed, and he's doing well, because as you said, every tenth of a second he's gaining. It might just be little things, but little things do soon mount up to bigger things. So a few laps of him gaining a tenth and a half will soon turn into a second. So, but also in the battle for 4th place, Menendez seems to be able to pull out a bit here.
And an interesting thing as well is that Izolowski is definitely going to keep his second position the way things stand at the moment. Kurt Krum is having a horrible race, which we talked about. Marco Corti, however, he's very close to the barrier of Wade Haywood. Haywood knows that if he can get himself in second position here, he can at least try and close the gap to try and get into 4th position in the overall championship. It's going to be close, and the chance that Corti should be able to keep that 4th position, but Haywood knows that, again, fortune favours the brave, and if he can get around Rico Alatolo, he's only doing a one-off race really here, so, you know, chances are that Haywood wants those points a lot more.
Yeah, and also further down the field there could be a bit of a battle brewing here, because Juan Rodriguez in 10th place is running 6 tenths a lap faster than Wolfgang Wildenhauer in front of him. The gap is currently, it's only about 2 seconds in it, so if he keeps on at this pace in a couple of laps time, he'll be trying to challenge Wildenhauer for that 9th place.
Yeah, and Emmanuel Menendez, to talk about the championship battle just one more time, he is really trying to get himself up into 9th position. The gap between himself and Andrew Ventura, who is not racing here this evening again, who is 12 points ahead of him. Menendez knows that he, a good finish for him will help him dramatically. I mean, Menendez's average finish, it's been rather good throughout the season. He's been in 7th place and he's had 7 top 5s out of 10 races. So he's doing a good job, and he really, again, needs those points, and he knows that. But in a moment, he's set for top 5, and that's really going to help his course.
We were talking about earlier that Niezolowski gaining time. On that last lap, he gained 0.3 of a second on the Alatalo and Hayward battles. It's now up to 3.4. So Niezolowski's case for victory is going stronger and stronger. And as you said earlier, he has to push all the stops out if he's going to take the championship. And Alatalo goes a bit wide there going into shallow hairpin, which puts Hayward right back on his rear bumper again. So it'll be interesting to see if Hayward does attack or if he thinks about keeping behind in 3rd place.
Yeah, and I have to... Sorry, you go ahead, David.
No, after you.
I was going to say, I had to take back my previous comment involving Hayward and Corti. In fact, Hayward pretty much has absolutely no way he can catch that car of Marco Corti in championship battle. So Corti is safe in that 4th spot. But Hayward, again, I think he's just trying to make a point here. It's the last race of the season. And David, we've seen this happen before with some drivers in many series who use that last race to set themselves up for the following season. And Rico Alatalo, he's one of the big well-known guys in the open wheel series, and to be able to race him and perhaps pass him like this will do wonders, not for his ego but for his placing in the community.
Yeah, just builds up his confidence, knowing that he can keep up with one of the faster drivers out there. At the end of the season, it's like, he might not have had the best season, or luck might not have fell his way, but this race he can go away and say, yeah, I'm doing everything right. I just need to keep working on it, and more practice he puts in, might see him battling for the championship lead.
There's a great 3-wheel battle coming out here for positions 9, 10, and 11. We've got Wolfgang Wildenhauer in 9th, Juan Rodriguez in 10th, and Dwayne Benzinger 11. And Benzinger's caught right up to the back of Rodriguez. He's good. He's set to slam on there to avoid hitting the back of Rodriguez. He made a small mistake there coming out of the Knickerbrook, but these 3 have been slowly drawing themselves together. But that mistake from Rodriguez has given Wildenhauer a bit of breathing space, but I expect to be back on the rear of that car very soon.
And Benzinger, he is driving with some damage to that his right front part of the front wing, and even though these cars have very small wings, the downforce they provide is very, very important, and that car is going to get very tight once it gets up behind the rear of some of these cars. So he's going to want to get past them sooner rather than later, otherwise his tyres are going to go off in a hurry. But a good drive by Benzinger there in the 11th position. After that moment at the start of the race, you saw him pretty much, the 180 degrees the wrong way round, but he's been able to catch up some of these drivers, and he's trying to slowly work his way through the field.
And here he is on the outside of Cascades. There's a bit of a wheel on the grass. Rodriguez and Benzinger himself has gone wide onto the grass, so the momentum he gained there is lost, and those 2 having moments without each other going into Cascades, but all the time they're falling back from 9th place Wolfgang Wildenhauer.
Yeah, and for Benzinger, he has got to take him one at a time. He's got, get the pass on Rodriguez, just be calm, do it that way. Then think about Wildenhauer, and then perhaps think about Scott McIntyre, who's sat in the 8th position further up the road. What he can't do is push too hard and wanting to get into 8th position now, otherwise he is going to make little mistakes like that, and he is going to pretty much end his race, because that car, it is a real handful at the moment. I've been having a look at his onboard camera, and it really is difficult to drive. Give you an update on another run of the time as David Farr just goes off the racetrack there. He will be lucky that he had no car around him, but he's lost a little bit in that battle between himself and Manuel Menendez in the battle for the 4th position. In fact, Menendez has been able to get around David Farr in the last lap, so Menendez is now up into the 4th spot, which is going to help him even more than that number 5 machine. David Farr, it looks like that car, these tyres have started to go off very early for that driver, and we're not even halfway yet.
Does that mean that Foray managed to find his way past Menendez again? Because Menendez was 4th before. He made a good move going into his lots. So did Ferrari make his way past again then, do you think, Will?
I think he did, and then he lost position again. We saw Farr was off the racetrack. These two drivers have pretty much been attached by a piece of string since the drop of the green flag here as they're coming back down into the chicane, number 10, 11, the Hislop chicane, before they come into number 12, the Knickerblock corner. But it's close between these two drivers, and it's that whole thing like you see so often in the series. One little mistake could really, really cost you.
Another two drivers just separated by a piece of string of Balatalo and Hayward. Now Hayward seems to be pushing on a bit more further. He has a little look going into the corner at Lodge, but decides better of it, and these two still battling fiercely, but Alatalo currently still has the second place at the moment, but Hayward's certainly getting a bit more impatient as the race goes on.
He definitely looks the faster out of the two right now. He's deeper on the brakes, his lines are a lot tidier. Alatalo is just looking a little bit rough coming out, so we'll give it another few more laps and I think Hayward's going to have him.
One of the key things that you're looking is you're seeing on board of him there, Rico Alatalo just going a little bit wide there, coming off the corner down this short straightaway before the island bend, turn number 4. You notice that Hayward isn't using too much of the wheel steel, so his tyres are still in good shape. As Alatalo sideways a little bit there, he managed to save it though, but Hayward, I think that if he can get past Alatolo, he can try and close down Jan Lizalowski in the second half of this race, but he's got to get the job done in the next 2 or 3 laps. And guys, I'm guessing he has ruined the fact that he lost that second position earlier on.
He just didn't have the car underneath him. I think he's, as the fuel loads go down and the tyres get a little bit worn out, maybe his car feels a little bit better and it's set up for the long run, whereas Alatalo just seems like he's struggling a tiny little bit, but he's pulled out a bit of a gap there. Okay, let's see how this pans out. We're coming up to halfway anyway.
And Mr. Strategist David Ward, I mean, these races, you know, they're about an hour long. You know, the grip of your tyres, everything's going to change dramatically over the course of the 30 laps here. Do you set your car up for the start of the race, like Lizalowski looks like he's done? Do you set it up, you know, to work well overall, but just be a bit slower on a lap-by-lap basis? What would you do, and how would it change depending on, you know, the position that you're aiming to get?
For me, something like this, I would definitely go for consistency, because you don't want a handful, driving a car that's a handful and just awfully twitchy all the time. I mean, some guys can actually drive like that and get away with it, but you know, there can be that odd moment when something does go wrong. So I'd go for something that's stable and going to get you towards the end of the race. But these guys, Hayward's so quick through Cascades. He's a lot quicker than Alatalo.
I've been having a look at the sector times. He does lose a little bit in sector 3. The final sector of this racetrack, which is just pretty much from the chicane and down towards the end of the lap. But that could be for the fact that he's just so close to the rear of Alatolo that he's having to drive a bit slower to make sure he doesn't run into the rear of him. But sector 1, he is just mind-boggling. But Alatolo looks like he's a little bit faster in a straight line, which is probably saving him on this long back straightaway.
Yeah, I think he just gets better drive out of the Shell Oil corner. I mean, this is where Wade loses out. I've seen it's just coming out of Knickerbrook, and Alatalo just seems to pull a little bit more. Not there though, so maybe Hayward's going to try and set him up into Lodge. That's his only place, so he needs to keep nice and tidy here going into Druid. Keep it tight, stick under his gearbox, so he can get a better drive out of the corner. And then he can maybe have a look down into Lodge, but yeah, he just loses out a little bit.
Yeah, you could just see how good he is on the brakes into 10 and 11, but, you know, I think those tyres pretty much, you know, right on the exit of the curves, you know, they do make it very difficult to overtake, you know. If you mess it up or the other driver, you know, is a little bit too defensive, you can both end up eliminating yourself from the race, as we are now past the halfway point of this 30-lap event. But I agree, that's probably the only point that Hayward's got the real opportunity to make the move. Perhaps down into turn number 5 as well, the Sherlock's corner, but it's going to have to be a dramatic move to do that.
Here
in fact, he's a lot closer.
Yeah. Oh, he's so much quicker here, and is he going to go slows him a dummy? I think he's got the line, he just needs to hold it on the outside as he goes. Can he do this? This is a brave move here. He's alongside. He's going to do it. Here we go.
Down to the inside. He does. Oh, it's going to be close. He does do it though. But
fantastic. That's awesome.
And let's not forget, that's why we had the 7-car pile-up at the start of this race, and that must have been playing in the minds of both of these drivers. They are still kind of too wide down the back straight away. Anatolo is not giving up that position yet. Haywood is going to have the inside line down into the chicane, so it is going to be the case last of the late breakers. We talked about how it's not going too wide, and Anatolo sneaks it back there.
The key moment there for Alatolo was, although he went a bit high onto the banking, it gave him that extra bit of drive and grip, and he was managed to use it to his advantage to keep alongside Haywood. And then, as you said, last of the late breakers. And also, you were talking about getting the job done, and Dwayne Benzinger, who we were looking at earlier, has actually found his way past the car of Rodriguez, and now he's on the back of Wildenauer, and I think he'll probably get in this lap. So, but that was a great move there from Riku Alatalo.
Yeah, I think Alatolo's been looking at the GB Velodrome team and just how you can use that banking to your advantage when you need it to happen, even if it is the longer rate around the racetrack. So just be careful about that and keep an eye, because Alatolo does not want to give up that second position, because I think that if Haywood can actually get past and complete the pass, he can drive off into the sunset. But guys, Nisolowski now 7.5 seconds ahead of these two drivers, so even if Nisolowski's tyres do fall off in their traditional manner, I see once again Haywood's trying to look down to the inside. I don't think these guys can catch him up anymore.
No chance, not with basically trying to get 8 seconds back. Alatalo started driving defensively now, so this is going to slow him up even more. Haywood has definitely got the faster of the two cars here, and it's just a matter of time, but can Alatalo hold him off for the next 10 plus laps?
Well, yeah, and we've had word from Alatolo's pit crew that they are pretty much having to coax him through this race. He's done so much racing these past couple of weeks that he is absolutely shattered. So Alatolo is literally being talked through lap by lap, the gap, how things are. You see there, Haywood looking down to the inside once again, down into Hislop. He's going to be a brave man to make a move down there, but he just falls back in line. And what he's doing right now, Haywood, he's just trying to force Alatolo into a bit of a mistake, I think, in that two machine.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to pressurise him. Haywood's got the quicker car, but I don't think he wants to get ahead of him just yet. Maybe he was checking him out where he was stronger. Definitely stronger coming out of the corners now, so maybe Alatolo's just overused the tyres.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that aggressive manoeuvre the previous lap where he had to be bold probably cost him, and these tyres do fall off the cliff.
Oh, he definitely ran wide there. This is going to give Haywood a chance now, but it's not really an overtaking point, not unless you're alongside going into Old Hall here and then onto the avenue. Can he do it into Cascades going into Lakeside?
It looks like he's struck back by a couple of car links. Perhaps he's calling his own tyres down as Haywood in that number 7 car, so that when he does make another manoeuvre, it's going to be one where he can put everything into it and not, you know, have that car slippy sliding around, because I think that's what cost him the previous time. He closes up dramatically out of Cascade, down the back straightaway, down the island bend into turn number 5. But the number 16, by the way, the number 16 of Dwayne Benzinger, we were just talking about how he had got back up to the field. He is now sat on pit road, and unfortunately, it looks as though his race has taken a turn in the wrong direction.
Yeah, he went off once. I think he's had a bigger impact, because I saw him about a lap ago and he was behind both Oulton and Rodriguez, and now I see him with no front nose on it. So I think he's had an impact with the wall somewhere after a first incident as well.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. It looks as though that car just caught a nasty bump, and that was a car spinning ahead of him, and that was Juan Rodriguez in the number 9 machine coming down into turn number 1. Rodriguez's car just snaps loose on him, and as he was trying to correct it, out of nowhere comes Benzinger and just slams into the side of him, and it was game over for both of those drivers.
Rodriguez, I think, is actually out of the race, and Benzinger's in the pits, so definitely both those drivers were struggling before, and it's just made their afternoons even worse.
Well, Rodriguez's car was beyond, repair. You know, it flipped twice, as did that of Benzinger. If you have a look at Benzinger's car, it looks like something that's trying to be entered into the Turner Prize. It's all bent in the wrong direction. There's absolutely no way he's going to be able to get that car back into the race without significant repairs. But to go back to this battle, Alatolo has still got himself that 2-car length advantage. It's not been much more than that now for about 5 laps. In fact, it's been closer quite often. This is the battle for second position on the racetrack. But guys, if I was Hayward, I would have had to have made the big move by now, because his tyres surely must be going off.
I think he's just trying to get a run on him. I mean, this track's all about setting them up. So if he's had a quick look down into Lodge Corner once or twice, but they're your 2 places really, Lodge Corner and Hull. Shell Oil's corner, they're going to be your 2 places to go for a move. I don't think he's going to be able to get down into the Nickelbrook chicane area.
But out front, Nisolowski still dominating that gap every single lap, just keeps increasing, now up to 8.8 seconds. It's been one of the best tries I've seen from Jan Nisolowski all season long. Manuel Menendez has still got David Farr right up behind him. Farr, in fact, that last lap just going through his slot was inches away from that tyre barrier. And David, again, coming back to you who's raced at this racetrack, you know, those tyres are very imposing, and those drivers really aren't attacking the curb down there too much.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird because we don't race with the tyres anymore. We used to, and they are very scary as you're coming down into the braking zone. I've hit my wing mirrors on them a few times, but yeah, they kind of make you go in there a little bit. You don't attack the corner as much. You're quite conservative, but now they've got a big kind of concrete sausage, which it seems a little bit more intimidating, because if you hit that thing, your car's going to get launched.
Yeah, especially with these downforce cars, you see how they can fly in the air with just half a moment's notice. Hayward, his last lap, a 1 minute 48.120. Rico Alatolo is a tenth slower. You cannot really compare these 2 drivers on lap times, however, because they've still been attacked by that piece of proverbial string which has been on their cars since the start of this race. Fur and Menendez still having that good battle for 5th and 4th respectively. Apart from that though, guys, this field is really spread out now with only 9 cars doing the lead lap. I think taking into account that big pile up at the start really has affected some of these drivers, and they really are just now just hot lapping, just trying to get that car to the end of the race.
Yeah, it definitely split up the field, because after the first lap it was seen to be the top 3, and then that was it. But going back to what happened with the car of Dwayne Benzinger on lap 16, he had a very scary moment coming out of Cascades where he pirouetted and lost the time to the 2 in front, which in turn caused him to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you could say that with that off, he was the creator of his own downfall.
We've got a car, Jan Nisolowski, I believe he just ran wide a couple of corners ago. We'll get confirmation of who that was, but there was a driver, Menendez in the number 5 machine. I'll take that back, is off. That gives a position to David Farr in the number 8 machine, that battle for the 4th and 5th position. And in fact, no, I think Menendez has actually been able to keep it.
Yeah, Farr's still right behind him, so whatever happened there, it did not benefit David Farr, and Menendez, if anything, seems to be a bit more, he's pulled out a bit of a gap, because at the start of the lap it was Team Talent, and now it's a lot more than that, so whatever happened also caused Farr to lose a lot of time as well.
And things still going on, even though, you know, this sort of settled down, you have to still be on it, because if a driver ahead of you has a moment, the last thing you're going to want to do is be the driver who didn't react to it properly and ended up losing a position.
Farr has also got wing damage on the, it seems to be bent, his wing on the right hand side is bent up, so it's had some contact with somebody or something, so that's some damage there for Farr, who's in 5th place.
Yeah, and that really is going to hurt the car of that number 8 machine towards the end of this race. It's not that bad, shall we say, but still, it's bad enough that it's going to have an impact on the downforce of this car. And in fact, I believe that, I'm just having a look back for the replay, I'm cycling through, it looks as though he actually ran into the rear of Emmanuel Menendez down at the chicane, which is what spun out Menendez, but Farr also had to go off track and out of sportsmanship. He just gave that position back to Menendez in that number 5 machine. He said, well, I did punt you off the racetrack, I might as well give you the position back.
Hayward's right on the back of Alatalo still as they come down through Lodge Corner and up Deer Leap again. And as you've been saying the whole race there enough, well, they are literally, it seems to be attached by a piece of string, and the string is getting no longer. It's almost as if he's towing them along this track.
And one of the key things is, with some very big straightaways here, it's not like a track like Sonoma, you know, with corners pretty much left, right and centre. This track, you know, there is some very long straightaways where you can draft back up to the rear of the car ahead of you. And that can help not only with cooling the tyres down, but also just keeping a little bit of momentum through these sections of the racetrack. Alatolo has done a sterling job being able to keep Hayward behind him for all of this time now, but that number 7 machine, he is definitely going to at least have one more go with 9 laps left to go in this race. So we are now into the closing stages here of the final round of the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series on Glacier TV. We have been with you all season long. We hope to be with you again next season. Jan Zalowski is your race leader. Ricky Alatolo is in 2nd, Wade Hayward in 3rd, Emmanuel Menendez in 4th, David Farr in 5th, Ryan Goddard is in the 6th position with Jason Dunnington in 7th, Scott McIntyre in 8th, the last driver on the lead lap, Wolfgang Wildenhall in 9th, and Kurt Crum is rounding out your top 10. We've got ourselves 4 retirements, but we expect Dwayne Benzinger to have his car being terminally damaged, and also John Rodriguez as well. We do not expect him to come back out onto the racetrack either.
They're both still in the pits getting repairs, so you never know if they can get the cars back to try and finish the race. It's the last race of the season. They don't want to end it off the track in the pits, so even if they just come out for 1 or 2 laps at the end, I think that'd be an ideal solution for those two.
The battle for the 4th and 5th position. David Farr looks like he's still with Menendez, but he's dropping back. I mean, it's like inches per lap. But that damage to that front wing is starting to hurt him a little bit. David, at the end stages of this race, that is where it's really going to affect you. You've been driving that car flat out from lap 1, and then all of a sudden you have something which affects the handling of the car. David Farr is really having to work that car hard now behind the wheel of that number 8 machine.
Yeah, just as the car changes towards the end of the stint, a tiny little bit of damage or steering getting knocked at can really just upset your rhythm.
I'm sorry to cut in, but side by side for second, Alatalo and Hayward, they came across the lap car there, Wolfgang Wildenauer, and Hayward was on the outside. He tried to make a move on Alatalo, he didn't quite make it out, but maybe he'll try and do the same move that Alatalo did to him, coming down the hilltops. He's got a real slipstream, and it goes alongside Alatalo. Now it's going to be another one of those battles of the late breakers, and who's going to have the biggest gonads here? And it's going to be Hayward who's going to do it round the outside. Alatalo's still fighting, but Alatalo's just managed to keep it, swings the car around the back end, really lively, kicking out, but Riku Alatalo keeps 2nd place, but Hayward's not giving up, he's keeping the momentum, and as they come up the hill, up towards Druids, Hayward's still all over the back. He's going to try and put the car to the inside. Surely that's not the thing to do, but he doesn't. But these two really are going to give us some late race fireworks.
Yeah, and that started all the way back down the turn number 5, and it worked all the way up the hill. And David, that's one of the things you need to do. You can take these opportunities. I talked about it earlier on this race. If you can get the lap cars involved and, you know, use them to your advantage, that perhaps now could be Hayward's only other opportunity.
No, I think Hayward's actually got this. He just needs to get a run on him. There's like I said before, there's only like 2 real places to kind of pass here, but Hayward, as they went into that chicane, Hayward was being overcautious. He had a lot more room on the exit, and he just gave Alatalo too much room there. Maybe he thought he was being squeezed onto the corner, but yeah, he was definitely being very gentlemanly.
And we've got ourselves 7 laps to go, in fact 6.5 laps left to go as they come down into turn number 5 one more time. And Hayward now, he's sighted out Alatolo in a couple of positions there. So So he should know now where he has the opportunity to make these moves and how they're likely to, how Alatolo is likely to react. As you're talking about being gentlemanly, I'm sure in the last couple of laps, if he does get a sniff, he's not going to be as gentlemanly as he has been previously. He's looking down to the inside once again, but it's just a little bit too far back. He wasn't able to make a move from down there. But I think, it's all what we call, sightseeing, spotting, setting up that opportunity so that when you do it properly, you pretty much guaranteed that you are going to find your way through. But very clean racing between these two drivers, especially the fact, that they are fighting for positions on the podium.
Oh yeah, it's great driving. I mean, the problem is that, if you want to set up a position, then Haywood's giving away where he's going to do all his moves. I know he's trying to fill Alatolo's mirrors up and try and put him off his line, but Rico's too smart for that, and he's just driving his lines, knowing that Haywood's got to make that move at some point. I mean, we've got 5 laps to go now, so it's going to get into that point of do or die if he wants that position.
Very, very close between these two drivers. Emmanuel Mendez and David Farr, they're still battling on the racetrack. To explain why we are only really keeping an eye on these two battles is because pretty much everyone is separated by about at least 10 seconds elsewhere on the racetrack. Having a look through the field, Kurt Crum, by the way, just stopped out on track. This is down somewhere, but he's been there for a while now, and he's just brought that car to a halt, and it's just stood there. Unfortunately, the race director's not here to give full course cautions, but that's going to really hurt any driver trying to make a move down into the chicane.
Yeah, and also you said earlier about the incident with Rodriguez and Bentingham. Rodriguez, he's got an amazingly sick car. It's an absolute pig to drive. It's going all over. There's no way that car is straight, but it's currently back out on the track amazingly, and it just seems to be crabbing horrifically. So Juan Rodriguez has managed to get it fixed to a certain extent, but that car just looks an absolute nightmare.
And I'm sure the first race control people will be having a couple of words with drivers at the conclusion of this race. It is against the rules to drive a car that is too damaged on the ground of just trying to make up laps. He spun it in front of a car,
and it's one of the who was that he spun in front of?
Jason Dunnington, the number 13 machine. And this is where it becomes an issue. When you base it on the fact that, Rodriguez is still going around, the next person to come around him will be Jan Niezolowski, a race leader. So we'll switch to him just for the moment. This is what the rules state, that these drivers are not allowed to drive a damaged car on the racetrack for the sole intention of building laps and getting positions. Right now, Rodriguez has come back out on the racetrack because of the fact that he knew that he could gain a position over Dwayne Benzinger, and that technically, guys, is against the rules.
But also, Riku Alatalo and Wade Haywood will be coming up to him pretty quickly as well, but they're also going to have another car in the form of Scott McIntyre to negotiate, and after the last little confrontation they had while trying to get round the number 10 of Rudrick Brabant, it could be a quite interesting little exchange. They're trying to get past the slower car.
Yeah, just to give you an update, Kurt Crum's car has now been removed from the crest of that hill down into his locks. So that will be of some use to Alatolo and Haywood. In fact, I'm sure that Alatolo would want him to keep it there for just a little bit longer. But all these drivers are getting around the lap traffic easy enough, and none of these drivers have been able to really get an advantage from it. We saw how Haywood was able to use it once. Alatolo, he's got back into the groove now, and he's realised, if I don't get around this lap car quickly, Haywood's going to try and come down the inside.
Yes, Kurt Crum has actually managed to get the car going. It's back at full speed, so I don't know if it was a quick toilet break or something, but Crum is back in the race, and now Alatolo and Haywood are going to come across Rodriguez with those 4 cars there. Rodriguez is pulling over to the right-hand side to let McIntyre, and Haywood's got past Alatolo. Oh no, he hasn't, I beg your pardon, it's 2 wrong colour cars, bit of misidentification there, but they've gone past Rodriguez now. And that's still in the same order, Alatalo second and Haywood third. I just got mixed up there between the 2 cars, which look very similar of Alatalo and the Scott McIntyre one.
And one of the things as well is I have to go back to Kurt Crum. I'm sure that any endurance racer would be able to back me up on this one, but if you're going to need a toilet break in the middle of the race, it's down for your mechanics to clean it up afterwards. We'll sort that one out. Maybe he was just taking a phone call, you know, say, oh, we're not allowed to be on our cell phones at the same time. We'll put that one to bed for now. Kurt Crum is circulating on the racetrack. However, he is now scored in the 10th position and is 2 laps down. Rodriguez is still driving that car around the racetrack in the 9th position. It is a real handful. Wayne Benzinger is still sat on pit road, as is David Farr in the number 8 machine. So David Farr, that car has got quite a lot of damage to it. And we talked about how early on he had a moment with Emmanuel Rodriguez, and that car is bent up. The suspension's damaged and something's happened to it. Having a look back on the replay,
Hayward's run up on the chicane. That's it. That's his. That's over. So he's not going to catch up Rico now. He just tried to outbrake. Well, it wasn't even an outbrake. Just missed his braking work completely and ran on.
I think there's some damage. Sorry, I think there might be a bit of damage to that wing as well, where he went over so aggressively. But we were saying about Kurt Crum, maybe he was doing a Brad Keselowski and tweeting from the cockpit. We know that the NASCAR driver carries his phone in the car, as proven in the red flag Daytona 500. So maybe a quick tweet break for Crum.
Yeah, for many other things. To give you an update on David Farr, he lost it coming out of Cascades turn number 3, and that is what caused him to have some huge suspension damage to that left-hand side of his number 8 machine. Wade Haywood, he's got a tiny bit of right front wing damage, but we've seen from drivers all race long, not really been too big of an issue, just tweaking that front wing a little bit. The gap between himself and Ricciardo Tolu is about 2.5 seconds. Well, we've got 3 laps to go, and Wade Haywood could close back up one more time, but you know he'll have to now do the whole surprise thing, closing back up and just making a big move the second he gets up to the rear of Alatolo. So it is still Jan Islowski, your race leader here, with 2.5 laps to go here at Oulton Park for the final round of the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series. I will tell you what, in the off-season, I will find a way of shortening that vein, I promise. Jan Islowski is now just coming through Knickerbock Corner one more time. He's only got to do that 2 more times. And he's done a sterling job, guys, out front. He's just kept his head clean, pulled away, and he didn't push too hard too early. And that's why I think he's still got a lot of pace later on in this race. I've seen at tracks like Sonoma earlier this season where he pushed too hard early on, and that allowed the field to catch him back up at the end of the race.
Talking of pushing hard, Haywood is pushing hard to try and get on the back of Riku Alatalo. He was over nearly 3 seconds behind when they came across the line last time, but it looks a bit closer this time. So I know he's got 2 laps to go, and it probably is going to be too late for Haywood, but he's certainly not going to relent the pressure on Alatalo, hoping maybe to force him into a mistake. But I think it's very unlikely when Alatalo did not make a mistake when he's right on his rear that he's going to cause one now.
Hey, so I always have to disagree with that. It's always that time when you think that you're clearing out of the woods that you're most prone to make the mistake. We've seen it so often with so many drivers that, let's just take Eric Senna in 1988, as soon as he snaps out of his chances when he had the moment, Rico Alatolo is still driving a good race. To give you an update on the time, Jan Nisolowski's last lap at 1 minute 48.0, Rico Alatolo's at 1 minute 48.4. So Nisolowski's still putting out 4 tenths of a second a lap over Rico Alatolo. Wade Haywood, you know, he's charging. He closed 3 tenths on Alatolo. This thing was a 10th of a lap slower than Jan Nisolowski.
I knew Haywood's got the pace. It's just that when you get behind another driver, you know, that old saying once again, it's one thing catching, it's another thing passing. So he's done good. I mean, I think Wade just was trying to force the issue a little bit, going into the chicane, but that's racing, and you know, if you're not trying, you know, what's the point? So, yeah, he's done well.
What is the point indeed? Meanwhile, Jan Nisolowski coming down into turn number 16, and he will take the white flag in a couple of moments' time. The last lap of the season for the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series on Glacier TV. We have been with you now for a good number of weeks, and it is going to be a shame to say goodbye for the season. But Nislowski coming down into turn number 1 for the final time. Oulton corner. He's got himself now just under 2.5 miles left to go. And guys, this has been one of the most dominant performances we have seen all season long from Nislowski. One of the most dominant performances we've seen by a driver all season long. And coming into next year's season, what that's going to mean is Nislowski is putting his stamp on this series ready for 2013.
Yeah, he's definitely the driver for watch out for next year, but next season. But you know, don't discount Haywood. He's definitely shown he's got potential. Just needs to cut down on that odd mistake. He can keep up with people like Alatello, who's got full respect for him.
Oh yeah, I have to say that there's been some absolutely superlative performances from drivers here, not only here at this race at Oulton Park, but all season long. I know some drivers have had some very difficult seasons, and we've lost a couple of people along the way, but for everyone who has stuck with it, you have produced some of the best racing we have seen on the iRacing service this year, and I just have to say I hope that it continues into 2013. We'll run through what the championship implications are at the end of this broadcast. We will not go off air until that has been announced. However, Jan Nislowski has just got himself a couple more corners left to go on this race. We said at the start of the broadcast that he had to get the job done. He'll come now out of the final corner. The ball is no longer in his court because Jan Nislowski wins at Oulton Park.
Yes, he's done exactly what he had to do. He knew he had any chance he had to win this race, and he's done it. Mission accomplished. Now he's just got the unenviable task of waiting and seeing what happens, but I'm sure he'll be hoping that he's done enough, but only time will tell.
Alatello comes home in the second position. Wade Haywood comes home in the third spot. It's now a half-minute wait for Emmanuel Menendez, who has had himself a very strong race. We talked about the championship implications for him. He has done everything he needed to do coming into this race. A top 5 probably would have been his target. 4th position was certainly above expectations from Menendez. A lot higher than his average finish this season. He should be very proud of himself. Through the final corner, past the start-finish line, Menendez comes home in the 4th position. Brian Goddard will come home in a couple of seconds' time in 5th. Only 5 drivers, though, on the lead lap at the end of the race, but some really good racing, though, and this was a very, very tough race for these drivers.
Yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed the battle between Alatello and Haywood. That was really enjoyable. Can't wait to watch those guys go at it again next season.
And we will get back to the race. We'll get back to the final classifications in a couple of moments' time. But guys, driver of the race, and Dan, I will start with you.
Driver of the race, Nislowski really dominated, but I also think Riku Alatello did a great job as well. It's his first race in the series, and he's come in and done a good job, and he's proven that no matter what machinery you put him in, he's always going to be round about the top there fighting for the positions.
David?
I'm going to pick just someone completely different. I'm going to go with Haywood, fighting all the way to the end. You know, it's 3rd place. He's keeping up with people like Alatello now, so a bit more practice, and definitely one to watch out for next season. And
I'm going to go completely again. I'm going to say Menendez. Again, 4th position for. It's not always about winning, and you know the past 10 days in London really has shown it's not all about winning. Of course, coming home with victory lane is important, but you know, he's one of those drivers that I think today really exceeded his expectations, and he has got to be so proud of himself. So well done to him. We're going to run through your final race results. Jan Nislowski comes home in a time of 54 minutes, 5.449 seconds. Riku Alatello eventually 13 seconds further down the road in the 2nd spot. Wade Haywood in 3rd. Emmanuel Menendez in the 4th position. Brian Goddard in the 5th spot. Jason Dunnington in 6th position. Scott McIntyre in the 7th spot. Wolfgang Wildenhall in 8th. Kurt Crum in the 9th position. Rutger Berbrand in 10th. and the rest of your standings is coming up through the field. Notable retirements are Benzinger, Kacheria, Jakubowski, Courty, and Adcock. And guys, it would have been interesting to see drivers like Courty and Jakubowski, go a little bit further on in this race here today.
Yeah, but as we've seen many times before, it's a bit of a first lap hero syndrome, and it took out two of the drivers and sort of took the race a bit away from us. But we did have a great race, but you could only think that with the full complement of drivers at the front, it could have been more, but that's the way racing goes sometimes.
And we would like to welcome into the booth Mr. Riku Alatole. Riku, you came home second today, but that was a very tough race for you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun with Wade. He had a bit more pace than me, and that's why he had a few chances to pass me. But yeah, it was epic going side by side for 3-4 corners after lap. Nice and clean racing.
Yeah, it's definitely great to watch you guys going at it, hammer and tongs. Are you going to be taking part next year season?
Yeah, I only took part in a few races this season. Looking back, I regret not doing the whole season. I mean, this car is a lot of fun to drive and provides close racing. And the price is awesome, so if this is up next year, I'll definitely try it.
And how important was it getting past Hayward, I believe it was on lap 3, to move yourself up into that second position? And would you have been able to, stay with him had you have not made that pass?
I think he had a bit more pace, so if he didn't make that mistake on the second last corner, if I wouldn't have passed him, I think he would have just ran away from me. I mean, in the previous race he only finished 6 seconds behind Jan, and now I finished 13th, so I think if I had not passed Wade, he would have fallen away from me. So it was really important.
And it looked as though in the middle portion of that race, the car was just starting to get a little bit slidey on you. Were you having to do a bit of time management, or was it just the way the car was set up?
I had the car set up very oversteery, and I didn't take into account the length of the race and the wear of the tires, so yeah, right about midway it got really, really oversteery and really loose on the exits, sliding over, losing me tons of time.
You know what they say, Will, loose is fast.
They always say, in fact, that's what you say to me all the time. But, I mean, how, just go off topic from this series momentarily, how do you manage to, keep together the racing in this series, racing in the Grand Am Premier Series, racing in the IWC GPS, and everything else that you do all at the same time?
I wonder that myself sometimes. I mainly concentrate on the World Championship Series road racing. But if a big event comes up like the Premier Series or a World Tour event, I might put in a day or two of practice. And I guess I just have the speed or something.
The need for speed, perhaps. And, I mean, you've got yourself a little bit of time now. You've got 10 days before your next race in the World Championship Series at Road Atlanta. I mean, I'm guessing that's where your direction's headed now, but first of all, how do you think the car's going to do there? And secondly, would you like to give a shout out to anyone?
Yeah, the setup at Road Atlanta we have started building the setup, so I think we're in a good pace. We're getting some competitive lap times, and throughout the week we should improve a bit. And yeah, I hope we can perform at Road Atlanta.
And final question. There's a rumor that there's a big Glacier Racing, Glacier TV IGP Manager Series starting up in a season's time with HPDs. You going to be partaking?
Oh yeah, of course. HPD, a lot of downforce, seems like it's a fun car to drive, so if there's money on the line, that seems like more fun, so of course.
No worries, and of course the next time you can see Riku on in his car will be on the 18th of August at Road Atlanta. More information, go to iRacing.com. And guys, I have done the maths, and unless a miracle happens later on this evening, it can be confirmed pretty much now that Christian Aranha is going to be the first ever iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series champion, it would be an absolute miracle that is required from Nizolowski to even get close, especially when you consider, the way the points work over multiple races. So it might be in jest, but I'm sure 99% sure. Congratulations to Christian Aranha, guys.
Yeah, well done. Shame that Jan couldn't bring it out on the last race, but that's how the scoring works in this event.
And of course, Christian Aranha will win himself a 3-day SkipBarber Race School pass, which is worth over $4,000 in value. Jan Nizolowski will win himself for claiming second position a SkipBarber Intro to Racing School. The same will apply to the drivers that come home in the third position. And I've just got my scoring completely messed up, but at the moment that looks as though that is going to be Kurt Crum, especially as he finished the race today ahead of Corty. So Kurt Crum looks like he will finish third in the championship. There are 2 random prizes that will be on offer as well. But guys, I mean, it's been a long season for this series, but I think that sometimes it's the people behind it that don't get any mention. So a big thank you, I think, is in order, not only to iRacing, but the SkipBarber Racing School themselves for sponsoring the series and providing this prize purse.
Yeah, they've put on a fantastic event, and hopefully they'll continue this next season, and we can see some more fantastic driving from some very talented people.
So that does conclude our coverage of the iRacing SkipBarber Racing School Premier Series for the 2012 season. Don't forget, we have got ourselves one other Premier Series, which has been going on for quite a while now. That is, of course, the iRacing Grand Am Premier Series, which is approaching the end of its season. Only 2 races left to go there. Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca on Sunday, September the 2nd, and then Lima Park on September the 23rd. They will both be on Glacier TV, as will the entirety of the World Tour for the rest of this year. So plenty much more to come on Glacier TV throughout the rest of this year. For more information, go to glaciertv.com. It has been an honor and a privilege to be with you all season long. For myself, from Dan Blake, from David Ward, from Yoni Backman, and everyone here at Glacier TV, a very good evening, and we will see you again some point soon.